Hi, my name's Amy. I started making these videos when I found out that I had stage 4 breast cancer, and this is part 2 of my looking at the book of Job, which is known as the suffering book of the Bible. I did a little overview of that and you can find it on my channel here, and I just wanted to follow up on the story, which is about a guy who loses everything and the way that he deals with suffering in the Bible. So in this book, Job has a bunch of friends who attempt to comfort him and do a terrible job. I wanted to read you a little bit of what Job has to say to them, which kind of sums up some of the book itself, because it also includes what he's been saying to God. He's been doing a lot of complaining about his situation, which is quite frankly very terrible. So in chapter 19, Job replies to one of his friends, "How long will you torment me and crush me with words? 10 times now you have reproached me. Shamelessly you attack me. If it is true that I have gone astray, my error remains my concern alone. If indeed you would exalt yourselves above me and use my humiliation against me, then know that God has wronged me. He has drawn his net around me. Though I cry I've been wronged, I get no response. Though I call for help, there is no justice. He has blocked my way, so I cannot pass. He has shrouded my paths in darkness. He has stripped me of my honor and removed the crown from my head. He tears me down on every side till I am gone. He uproots my hope like a tree." So you can see he's having a full-blown complaint against both God and against these friends of his. And I used to get really confused about this, because the whole point of the book of Job is that he is the guy that won't curse God even though all these bad things happen to him. And yet he sits there and he says, "I've been wronged. God has wronged me and I haven't done anything wrong," for most of the book. And his friends are saying, "Well, you must have done something wrong. How dare you say to God that he has wronged anyone?" So on face value, when you read the book of Job, it sounds like his friends are actually the ones that are going to get a good response from God. And it doesn't end up like that at all. In the end, it is the other way around. So at the very end of the book, the Lord speaks to Job, and then he says to his friends, "I am angry with you and your 2 friends because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has." So I used to get very confused about that. But I think the difference is that God prefers Job's honesty of heart to his self-righteous friends. His friends are very judgmental and they are coming at it from a place where they are holier than thou, and they get reprimanded, whereas Job gets justified. It is worth mentioning though that in the very end, Job does come to a place of humility where he says, "Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know." This is in chapter 42. "You said, 'Listen now, and I will speak. I will question you, and you will answer me. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes." So he comes to a place of just being on his knees before God. And for me, with all the arguing and the complaining that he does, it's actually quite encouraging, because God prefers that in this book. He prefers that Job is honest. And I think sometimes that's where we are. I've certainly been in that place where you're like, "God, what are you doing? What is going on? This is not fair." And so we've felt like that before. And we do feel abandoned, and it does feel unfair, and I think it is unfair some of the time. But if we keep our hope in God, that's what he wants. So even in that part where Job was complaining about God wronging him, in chapter 19, he finishes it off. Verse 25, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes, I and not another, how my heart yearns within me. So it's from a position of hope. It's being ground down to the base level of everything, of who you are, stripped bare. But if we keep our eyes on God as our ultimate hope, that's where we're meant to be. And I think that for me is part of the message of Job. The other part that I think stood out to me was, my ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. So the suffering, the process that Job went through was what enabled him to understand God more deeply. And I think if we avoid suffering in our lives, we never grow. We never learn much. We don't progress. I think suffering is not the end point. It is not the destination, but it can be the process. And I see that in the book of Job, and I've seen that in my life too. So I encourage you to read it for yourself. See what you get out of it. It's got a lot in it. But that's my take, and hopefully that's helpful to someone too.